Welcome to 5 Minutes in the Word, a daily devotional in the Word of God.
Logan, as we look at First Thessalonians, Paul uses some real interesting imagery. And one of those is found beginning in chapter 2, verse 7, where he says, "But we were gentle among you, just as a nursing mother cherishes her own children. So, affectionately longing for you, we were well pleased to impart to you not only the gospel of God, but also our own lives, because you had become dear to us." So, in what way was he like a nursing mother?
Well, he's, in my opinion, he was more like Jesus than he was a nursing mother.
Okay.
But I mean, you can make some comparisons there, and it hold some water. But I would say Paul's definitely following in Jesus' footsteps by looking at verses 9 through 12 in this chapter of the Bible. Verse 9 says, "For you remember, brothers, our labor and toil. We work day and night, and we might not be a burden to any of you, while we proclaim to you the gospel of God." Now here, as we see, Paul was he was very much a working man. It's a good plug for vocational ministry. But as we know, according to Acts 18, he was a tent maker, and he had many adventures with Aquila and Priscilla in tent making and learning that trade.
Right.
Really, but I say that Paul's very much like Jesus here, because there's plenty of times throughout the Gospels where we read stories of how Jesus and the apostles were traveling to a different city or in between cities, and they would stop to rest only to stand right back up and either preach and teach or heal people.
Right.
So it seems like they didn't get much rest, and they were essentially working day and night in that. But also kind of comparing that to a nursing mother, they were up day and night taking care for these people here in Thessalonica, all the while proclaiming the gospel of God to them. So he's taking care of them on really a physical and spiritual level as well. Verse 10, "Now you are witnesses, and God also, how holy and righteous and blameless, holy, righteous, and blameless was our conduct toward you believers." Now, Paul is saying, it's like, I'm not hypocritical in my speech in saying that I am following the conduct laid out by God according to the message that I'm delivering to you.
Right.
You're a witness to that, and God is too. That I'm not a hypocrite, and I want you to follow in the footsteps that I'm following as well. So now, verse 11, probably the biggest tie back to a nursing mother, for you know how, like a father and his children. I know my daddy would always keep me out of harm's way to the best of his ability. And Paul's doing the same thing with these Thessalonian brethren, because that he had just built this congregation, and a lot of these Thessalonians were babes in Christ. So he's trying to keep them on to nourish them in a spiritual avenue to the best way that he can, and keep them out of harm's way, i.e., false teachers and false teaching, really.
Right.
But verse 12 kind of feeds back into that by saying, we exhorted each one of you and encouraged you and charged you to walk in a manner worthy of God, who calls you to his kingdom and glory. Now, fathers, they teach their children from a very young age in the way that they ought to go. They exhort their children, and they encourage their children to do so, in keeping in that manner, whether that is always caring for people in their spiritual needs, being or having others witness them in the conduct that they have daily, and then caring for others, like probably others younger than them, and keeping them from harm's way. So here Paul is more or less teaching these Thessalonian brethren how to be just like Jesus.
Good. Yeah, that's great. So Paul's both their mother and their father.
Yeah.
In a sense of the word.
Yeah.
He's like a parent. And isn't it interesting that, like a parent, he's concerned with how his children walk?
Mm-hmm.
How do you conduct your life? Mom wants you to conduct it well.
Mm-hmm.
Dad wants you to conduct it well. You're right. He they both protect us, of course, and they labor for us all the time, but they want us to live it the way we ought to live it. And that's what Paul wanted for them, and as you said, that's what Jesus wanted too.